Please actually let's share this to people that we know that will be able to learn from this. Honestly, what we're sharing today is something that I've personally just wanted to share for a very long time. Uh, when you just figure out that oh, this thing actually works, or like this is really this, then just like oh my god, kind of leave your head, right? But yes, yes, okay. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today's class, and I really appreciate the fact that we are able to get here early, right? Right. So thank you guys for actually joining. All right. So what we're actually going to be learning today will be something different from what we have always been doing. I know for the bulk of last year for Lenaki, we were looking at a lot. We were looking at a lot about software. We looked at Massing, we looked at Photoshop, looked at a lot of Revit. We looked at doing parametric things with ratings in Revit. Yes, we actually did a couple of things. So what we'll be doing this year a lot would be tied towards designing and away from software use, right? So we'd really be going a bit further away from software use, uh, but actually focusing a lot on design in and of itself. And there's actually a lot to learn, honestly. Even me preparing for this, I think there was a lot of things that I was able to learn right on the go. Let me put this in present. Okay. All right. So today we're looking at design as a process, and just for so that I will hint everybody, this class will be a lot about we unmuting ourselves and responding. So please, there are a lot of questions because this is discussion actually. We're all here to learn. We're all here to learn, and being able to rub minds would really help a lot. Okay, so I mentioned that we'll be doing a lot of questions, and eh, come in. Sure. So the first question is what is design? What is design? What's design? So yes, I know that people tend to be shy to an extent, right? So what will be happening today is that I would actually be pinpointing people to just actually talk, right? So Musa, how are you doing? Musa, how are you doing?
Fine, sir.
Oh, hmm, you have this very trombone voice. Really nice, really nice. All right. Though you can just say okay where you are joining us from and just tell us what do you think design is.
From Kaduna State University, Kafancham campus.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Yeah, my not people. All right. So what do you what in your opinion do you think design is?
Sir,
In your opinion, what do you think design is?
design is just a drawing.
Hmm. hmm. Okay. So you believe that design is a drawing, right?
Neither Jimmy.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so Leslie, let's also hear from you too. What do you think design is? What do you think design is? Okay, Felix said, I think it's an idea. Hmm. Okay, let's just piecing everything together. Let's piece everything together. Um, yes, Leslie, let's hear from you. Idea brought to life. Lovely, lovely. Uh, Bola, let's also hear from you. I really love the way Felix is really like dishing us uh, all his own views. Uh, yeah. So, Bola, let's hear from you. What do you think design is? What do you think design is? Can you unmute? Okay. So, okay. All right. Yeah. Can you just unmute and tell us what you think design is?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, bro.
Yeah. So design basically is an innovative idea that
Mm.
simply makes things better, easier than the way we normally go about doing them. So whatever functions to suit the particular purpose is a good design or is design.
Mm. Okay, I think that really makes a lot of sense. And to pick from what you said, you mentioned something functional. You mentioned that um, something really working for a purpose, right? And that is actually a lot to it. Leslie said design is an abstract idea or thought brought to reality. Right. Everyone really has a very good idea towards this, and I kind of believe that we can't really box design to one definition, right? That's why if you ask different people what design is, they would actually tell you what they believe design is, right? What they believe design is. And honestly, it is very important for us to be able to define this variable called design. And it's something that it spreads across in different different spheres, right? So when I was planning, honestly, okay, let's say at the ending of last year, December, I was planning for this year. So one of the things that I was able to catch, or one of the things I saw was something called business design, right? Business design, and I was like that. Oh, that sounds so intriguing, right? So that was really one of those things that I set myself to be able to learn for this year. And I won't lie, the journey has been very different. The journey has been very different. But what I was able to learn was that the idea about design is very universal, although context can change. Very universal. Very universal. And one thing that I can tell you for a fact that would be very relevant in the years to come are actually designers. Now, what do I mean? Um, when it comes to production or implementation of anything, like um, implementation of a design, of any kind of design, in that sense, right? Sorry. So yeah, when it comes to any form of the implementation of any form of design, one thing that you'll be able to know is that with time it gets easier to implement. Right. If you look at buildings, for example, the buildings that they were designing in the 1980s, different from the buildings that are being constructed now, because construction capability has really increased. Right. So that really leaves a lot of space for the designers to be able to express, and that's why we have a lot of crazy buildings now. If you look at other contexts, um, let's say for example, designing of like a website, right? Uh, Coding is now, which is operations. I mean, what really brings the idea to life, right? Is now being almost taken over by AI. If there is any programmer that does not use AI in their programming, the person is like at the back, like back, right? And you will just see that in these different contexts or any context, you see the operations or the implementation of a particular design is being automated, right, or just being enhanced, right? Okay, Leslie said you can actually type it, right? So what I'm just trying to say is that a lot of space is not really given to the design, and the reason why I said that the designers will not have more power is because that we there is nothing that can take away conceptual thinking, right? Be able to have a problem, solve it, have an expression to it, infuse emotions to them, right? And that's just one of those things I'll be able to establish into this webinar. Leslie, we're still waiting for your definition though. All right, so let's really just let's kick on. All right. Okay, so the next what we're be looking at now is to look at the direction of design as a form of thinking. right? As a form of thinking. Now, I know again we can say design is in different aspects, but the primary place where design happens is in the brain. Is in the brain, right? Even if you are implementing it on a building during construction, to be able to point something out and say, why don't we change this way? What happened? Your brain perceived something because of your eyes, and you're able to even think, right? And say, oh, why don't we change this thing this way, right? But even when you already have like a floor plan and you're looking at a floor plan, like, okay, if they move from here to here and they from here to here, from here to here, your brain is really doing a lot of calculation, right? A lot of calculation. Uh, Something will happen recently when I was talking to someone. So she studied nursing, but she really wants to enter into design, like graphic design, right? And it was something that okay, she was like, okay, I should just take her through. And when she now heard that I actually study architecture, right? She was like that, ha, that means you're smart. Oh, she realized that the only way she knew people that did architecture, people that are actually like crazy smart, right? And um, I think we'll have to take our flowers because we know how head aching it can be to draft a floor plan in the simplest form, just draft a floor plan, right? Yeah, there are sometimes that I think for those that are even students now, right? Like you just be on TV and your head is just paining you, right? Most of the time, when you even tell the truth, most of the time the solution is to go and eat something. And it might seem like you are stress eating, right? It happens, right? It actually happens. But like a lot about design happens in the brain primarily, right? Primarily, primarily happens in the brain. All right. Um, Now, if we say that it happens in individual brains, can we now say that the design now depends on the designer? Yeah, I think that's a question that we can really throw on. Let me see what to pick and answer this question for us. Right. But if you actually want to you want to if you want to volunteer, you can always do. But the question is, does design now depend on the designer, right? Especially if we're in a team. If we're in a team, whose brain are we now using to design? If we're like five that are designing something, right? And everybody thinks differently. So yeah, I really want to get our view. Um, let's hear from Victor. Victor Chukuma. How you doing, bro? How are you doing? Just tell us where you're from and just answer the question. Do you think design depends solely on the designer? Victor, if you can unmute, that would be good. If you can't, you can just give us a thumbs up. Then we'll know that okay, you might not be able to unmute where you are. Fair. All right. Okay. So let's hear from Duro Sinlorum Kola. Kola. Hmm. Duro Sinlorum. Very amazing name. Bukola, how you doing? Can you just unmute? Tell us where you're from. And do you think design depends solely on the designer?
Yes, my name is Joshua Abdul Bukola. I'm from Kwara State. Yeah, I
Oh,
think the design depends on the designer. It's, the
okay,
design has
okay.
to do with the perspective of the designer. The way he sees, whatever he wants to design. If it's like, take for example, a building now. He feels that
Mhm.
okay, yeah, my building has to have a very large sitting room because I spend a lot of time in the sitting room or stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
the designer plays the type of the kind of person the designer is plays a very huge role on the kind of design he makes.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that really makes a lot of sense. And I'll buttress on something that you said. Felix also actually raised up his hand, so you can unmute, bro, and tell us where you're from. And yeah, do you think design depends solely on the designer?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, I'm Felix Chukwode. I'm currently a student in Federal University of Technology, Owerri.
Oh, no way.
I'm in my third year in I'm studying architecture. So, about the question,
Hmm?
does design depend solely on the designer?
Designer, yeah.
I will, I will disagree with that.
Okay.
Despite, despite the designer having the idea first in his head, he also consider the people he's designing for, because when you're designing, you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for people, so you
Yeah.
have to also consider, like, put them into consideration in your
Mm-hmm.
design. So that is my own opinion. Thank you.
Hmm. Hmm. I think so not so contrasting, right? But I think we'll be able to tie everything together at the end of the day. Dimilade, how are you doing, bro? Um, yeah, I know you're probably just joining, but if you can just help us on this, do you think design solely depends on the designer, and also tell us where you're joining from?
Good evening. Um, my name is actually Olatunji Prince. That's my third name, Familade. So,
Okay, okay,
I'm joining from Abeokuta.
okay, okay.
So, um, does design now depend on the designer?
Yeah.
Okay, because the answer I might be giving now might just come random because of proper thoughts and question.
Uh, praise is praise your network, like network is breaking.
Okay, can you hear me better
Okay.
now?
Yes, yes, we can. We can.
Okay, so I'll say yes. One the I'll say yes is okay. Like, well, an example of those is something I usually just look at is before a manufacturer like creates something, like the product
Mm-hmm.
actually depends on the manufacturer. Like, it's the manufacturer that gives the purpose of why it's creating product. So this I
Okay.
also want to apply almost the same thing to a designer. So for designs, I know that, as the last speaker said, that is designing for people. Like, there's actually a client that
Yeah.
is
Yes.
designing for,
Yes.
but manufacturer, a manufacturer that is designing a product is also designing it with a sense that they are going to be clients, or they are going to be consumers that are going to use that product. So I would say that a design
Mm-hmm.
depends on the designer, because he's designing for a client, yes, but he's still the one that determines whatever principle of design is going
Yeah.
to apply,
Yes.
whatever element of design is going to use. So
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
just say it like that.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Leslie, if you can unmute. So after Leslie, we'll just go from there and try to tie everything what people have said, and also what also I think. Yeah. So let's hear you.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can actually. Can well.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Okay, Leslie from River State. So, the question, does design depend on the designer? I would say it's it works both ways because there are a lot of things that affect the design process from the client. Okay, let me say architecturally, from the client to
Yeah.
factors in the site to capacity of building to every other thing, the climate, everything influences it. And now at that point, the designer or since it's architecture, the architect has not proposed, let me say, a crazy idea that he might have to carry out this design. So
Yeah.
then at that point, it is the other factors that influence this design more. It's not a 50-50 something. Then out of architecture, let me say for graphic design, you have the clients. You still work with clients. So we have these people that we want to create something out of the box for. Probably people come with
Mm.
regular designs. Is
Yeah.
this one, that one, that one. And now at that point you're still trying to like meet up needs for people.
Yes. Yes.
Now we can say at that point that you're being innovative. You're being innovative to come up with a crazy design, which is not really like there are not much factors affecting this one. Just
Hmm.
the clients. Do you get the
Yes.
client
Yes.
because is definitely the same information you're putting there
Yeah.
and the same
Yeah.
it's just the whole pattern that is different.
Yes.
Do you get? So I would say it works both ways.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you so much, Leslie. So, to tie everything everyone has said, I think I would tilt more to what Leslie said. Reason is that when you look at the factors that actually make a design, or let's say the factors that make the end product of a design, right? I would say that the designer has the most control of the scenario, but not the total control, right? The designer has the most control, but does not have the total control. Let me even drop this tip, right? One thing I've really seen is that most designers that are able to excel well are the designers that take almost full control of their process. They are mostly the people that don't take no for an answer. They are mostly the people that they want it a certain way, right? And they make sure that it is that certain way. For example, you can if you look at the example of someone like Zaha and look at the proposition that she could have made for different designs, right? And you not tell her that, oh my God, Ma, we don't think this is going to work, especially if, like, let's say the structural engineer comes says that this can work, this cannot work, right? The MEP comes and be like, oh, we really we don't have the capability to be able to do this plumbing this way, right? And one thing that you really need to be able to do as a designer is to be able to own your process. If it's that you would advise the client to want to look for another consulting firm, right, that is specialized in a particular type of plumbing, right, because you want to achieve that thing, it is your responsibility, right? So what I'm just trying to say is that the most of the decision is in the hand of the designer, right? People might still say that okay, it's also still in the hand of the client, which is true. But as a designer, you should also know how to work with your clients in the sense that you also have the upper hand, right? You also have the upper hand. You also have the upper hand. Okay, so let's even just progress, right? There's also a lot we're going to cover. So this is another question that I think we'd really just take one person because I know that there's actually lots to say about this. So let me explain what I mean by design being subjective or design being objective. Now, subjective design is
design that, or let's say, a design that is subjective is subjective to individual people, right? Or individual context. Design that is objective is trying to say that this is the problem, this is the main solution, right? For example, if I want to drink water from a bottle, right? The solution is to open the cap, right? That's objective, that's logical, right? That's logical. Subjective design is more emotional. So, what do we think? Let's even just put that in the chat box, right? So, what do you think, subjective or objective, right? Team subjective or team objective? Yeah, let's kind of start that in the chat. What do we think? Should design be objective? Okay, Leslie said objective. All right. Waiting for everyone. All right. Maria Goretti. Lovely name. Said objective. All right. Let's hear from other people. What do you think? Design should be more subjective or more objective? Team subjective, 100%. Hi Zoe, how you doing? Uh, all right. So let's have other ones. Let's have other ones. Objective. Musa said objective. Musa said objective. Musa said objective. Anyone else? Anyone else? Please let's be very interactive. Anyone else? Anyone else? Objective. All right. All right. Um. Police most of the time will be subjective. It is only in outlier cases where the product 100% solves a problem with no flaws that it can be objective. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Now, yes, Bukola said subjective and objective has to be balanced. All right, all right, all right. Now let me bring it from this angle. Right, design highly has to do with who you are designing for than the design itself. Because any successful design, right, would be that it works for the person that you're designing for, right? Now, let's just do a bit of study on that person that we're designing for. Yeah, human beings, right? Yeah, human beings, right? Yeah, yeah. Now, will you say humans are more subjective or humans are more objective? Yeah. So let's also put that in the chat box. Do we think humans are more subjective or more objective? Do we think we're more emotional or more logical? Do you think humans are more logical, or more emotional, or more subjective, or more objective? Let's get that too. Yeah, 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 yeah. So let's also put that in the chat box. Do you think we humans are more subjective? Oh, okay. Felix said humans are more subjective. Yeah, okay. Leslie said humans are also subjective. We are more emotional. Right. Yes. Bukola said subjective. We are controlled by our emotions. We will view things the way we appreciate things. So, what do we think that it will be very logical to say design for people has to be emotional? Would it be logical if we say design for people has to be emotional? Because you remember where we started from? Design mostly happens in the brain and mostly happens in the brain of designers. I mean, design solutions. Design problems happens in the brain of the users, the brain of the people, right? So this is my own view, but I believe that design is primarily subjective. Primarily subjective. Now, design solutions can be objective, but as Bolu said, they are mostly just little outliers, right? Let's even look at, okay, let me even just give the example that I made, which was that I want to drink water from a bottle, and I'm told to, okay, it is very logical to just uncap, right? The bottle cap, like uncap the bottle, yeah, uncap the bottle and just drink like that, right? But if you come to someone else, they will tell you that no, I prefer to use knife to cut the top of my bottle and pour it into a glass cup instead of uncapping, right? Yeah, yeah. I know that would be weird. That would be weird, but that's actually humans for us. It's actually humans for us. So I think we would really just have to have that balance. When we're designing for people, it has to be emotional, right? There's a video that Bark Angels, a TED talk he made. Ah, oh my god, I can't really remember what it is exactly. Um, oh, I really wish. But that video really just explains how people are so emotional and how design can really influence emotions, right? For example, would we say logically Zaha Hadid's designs are the most functional? That's a very good question to ask, right? I believe not the most. Okay, Oloshi, do you want to say something? I think I can actually, yeah. I think someone raised up your hand. Okay, okay. So I kind of believe that there will be instances where that design does not, like hard designs might not be able to fit into something like sustainability, especially when it comes to costs, right? Yeah, yeah. But do we I think that there should now be this balance between designing for people's emotions and designing for the function of it, right? Just as we usually do in architecture. Honestly, there is no how you will not be so excited, even if you are not design oriented, when you even just pass, right, the Haida Aliyev building, right? Let's say you're just walking past it. Even if you don't even like design, you will just be excited because why, the thing is just looks so good, right? Just looks so good. Or you stand beside the Burj Khalifa and you're just looking at, oh my god, the way this thing is tall is just crazy, right? So yes, I think it's something we would have to agree with, that design is primarily subjective, and there are like outliers of objectivism to it. All right, so let's even proceed. Let's proceed. All right. So how do we make design decisions? And let me just jump to this. Um, I mentioned, I mean, we were able to establish at the beginning that design primarily happens in the brain, both the brain of the designer and the brain of the client. But if we maybe look at it together, we'll be able to say that what we have control over is our brains and not the brain of our clients, right? So we're kind of looking at things psychologically, right? We have a design and we need to sell it to somebody. We know this design can work, but the client is afraid of it. It takes communication and emotional intelligence and also leadership to be able to lead that client to be able to accept that design. Tell them that what you're looking at is the cost, but if you look at the fact that your building will be one of the most iconic buildings in the world because this and this and this is part, right? You can be able to be open to more opportunities of, even if you even need to even sell this building, you'll be selling it in the building value would increase more than just any type of building, right? That kind of thing. And when there's a will, there's a way. I think that's one thing that we've been able to learn from most architects. There was a time in Lenaki we did a review of this steam factory building. But can you remember the name? By Berkengel and this other people. I really forgot the name of the building, right? And one of the things we able to learn from the building was that BIG partnered with that particular company to fundraise that project. To fundraise the project. Like they literally went to do GoFundMe for that project, right? Because I have a vision. This is what we want to do. I will make it work. You just have to make it work. Now, and you already mentioned that all these qualities are things that you have with yourself, and most of this happens in your brain, how you think, right? Now, I just outlined four things that would really we can look at cues that we can say, okay, this person is going to make the best decision or not so good of a decision. Number one is knowledge. Knowledge is you can't you can't overemphasize that, right? Because knowledge is that I have something stored up. When there is a problem, I know the solution. My designs are even faster, right? Because I already know the solution. Because I've read about this, because I've seen people do this, right? I already know the solution quick. Because I understand about human emotions and how humans perceive space, I know the solution. Because I know how to convince my clients psychologically, I know the solution, right? So a lot of how much you can do as an architect would have to do with the knowledge you have. The second one is the experience you have. The experience you have, another thing that is very so much important. Experience is actually key. Honestly, we can agree that school is good, but school is really not the entirety. And we know that the architects of the early times did not need to have a BSc and an MSc in or MArch or BArch in architecture, right? To be able to be the best designers. I think one thing that we just have to agree in is that this space that we live in, called architecture or design, has a lot to do with experience and tutelage, right? That's when they tell you that honestly, you actually start learning the architecture thing when you start working, right? Because that's where things are now more practical. So experience actually helps. And at the end, I'll be able to just share some things that I know. Again, there's there will be other things that can be added to this, but those things I know that can be able to help in building experiences, especially in places like Nigeria where you might not be able to get a job as easily as possible. Okay. So another thing is logical thinking. Logical thinking, I believe, is very important because the balance of subjects like subjectivity and like objectivity, that's like emotional thinking and logical thinking, in my opinion, has more to do with logical thinking because emotional is not structured. It can be wavy, right? Emotions are not defined. Very sometimes it's very it can be possible to define them, but it will also take logical thinking to define them, right? To take data to define them, take research, actual logical research, right? So for example, I want to know how people um, um, perceive spaces in, for example, worship areas, right? Mosque and a church, right? Instead, like I can either go the route of going there and ask the worshippers, telling them that okay, just asking them questions. What do you think about it? What do you think about it? If we're going to add this, what are you going to say, right? Or we can even just do questionnaire where we can even just bring it to them and say that okay, what do you think about? What do you think about it? What do you think about this? And we will not say that oh, I don't think this result. makes sense. What I'm trying to say that let's say you have already done the research and I'm looking at it, I'm trying to say that I don't think this result makes sense. So right, ah, like why would people say that they like this thing, right? Why would people say they like this thing? But at the end of the day, the blockage is in your head, right? The blockage is in your head. So what you just need to do exactly, what you really need to do is to be able to say that you are the one structuring their emotions and bringing meaning to it, right? I really need to bring that video by Burke Angels, and I'll make sure I send it to the group. Just I know that I actually like saved it on my YouTube. Um, but yes, but I want to quickly chip in something, right? I know this is not in context, but and please, if you can pay for YouTube Premium, please actually do it. I'm just saying it's like I'm lowering my voice, but you can pay for YouTube Premium, to just do it. Right? You enjoy YouTube better. But that just by the way. So I'm actually just going to provide that for us. Then what I'm trying to say that you actually need a lot of logical thinking to be able to make the decisions because there's a lot of emotional and subjective meaning, but you just have to come up with one decision, right? Not try to serve everybody, right? Not try to serve everybody. All right. So the next thing is emotional thinking, which is very important. Empathy. Um, we so one of the things we're going to go through is to look at some architects, and we're going to look at someone that does this so well, crazy so well, right? But yes, let's even just proceed and let me just okay. So design philosophy and this is now where we now start going to the nitty gritties of what we're going to discuss today, which is about process. But before process, there is actually philosophy. So philosophy is just how do I think about something. Philosophy is about the how, right? Process is about the what. Philosophy is about that. Let's say philosophy of human interaction. Philosophy can be I am the most kind person ever. The process can be or whenever someone needs help, I will offer help. Philosophy is trying to in design, philosophy is trying to tell you that this is how I think about design. That design is more objective than it's emotional. And I still believe that if someone can prove us wrong, yeah, we can actually accept the person's knowledge, right? But you can just come and say that okay, this is actually my philosophy and try to prove your philosophy through your process, right? So philosophy is kind of like the root or is usually before you're able to have a design process in and of itself, right? So your philosophy is key. Your philosophy actually comes with your experience, your personal experience most of the time, right? We'll look at so we're looking at three architects today. Don't worry, when we get there. We're looking at three architects and be able to see how their personal experiences influence the way they saw design, right? A lot about your philosophy will be the type of person you are. There's one of the architects I will see that you will know this guy is an introvert and this guy likes to be on his own, right? And you see people like you'll be able to you'll be able to express this philosophy in different ways, right? And people will be able to resonate with that your philosophy. So in my opinion, if you don't even have a process but you have a philosophy towards design, you go for right. You go for like philosophies are principles in your mind that I must not do a design that is not innovative, right? Okay, so I was talking to someone. He currently works in Zad Architects in the London branch, Sheffield branch, and London office, which is actually like their main office. Yeah, which is their main office. Now he was really just mentioning that one of the philosophies that like this is what he said, like no kidding. One of the reasons why he told me one of the reasons why he really loves working there was that is that not like he has gone is that they have the principle of that no two buildings must look alike. in any way, shape, or form. No two buildings must look alike in any way, shape, or form. And that's what the leadership of that particular firm, that is architect, actually infuse into their architect, right? Making sure that everything is actually innovative, right? Honestly, even in the interaction I've had with this guy, I've really just seen a whole different way of how design, how design process and how design research, oh my god, research, how design research is so important, right? It's so important. And it's really, honestly, when you just, those are just one of those things that you just know and you're just like, oh my god, this is so, this is so different from what I know already, right? So what I'm just trying to bring forward to us is that design has to do a lot with how we actually perceive it, our philosophy, right? So the next thing is that what's the design process? As I already mentioned, our philosophy is your why, and the process is your what. The philosophy will influence your process. The process will be influenced from your philosophy, right? Most of the times, right? Most of the times, and just look at design process as a structured or not so structured way at which you tackle the problem of design. And I believe that everyone should have that. And the reason why I say that everyone should have that is because it will help you when you are tired of designing. It happens a lot, right? Where let's say like you are really just done so much design and like whew, when you have a project, but you know that okay, based on your own process, you sketch, you do 30 sketches, right? Minimum of 30 sketches. After those your 30 sketches, you are going to model something or model like five of those sketches, right? Just on like mass model and try to look at them, do some analysis with them, or you first go to the site, spend like 3 days on the site, sit down on the site, sleep on the site. Yeah, but what I'm just trying to say is that everyone has their own process and it actually comes from the way they see design or the philosophy of design, right? So yeah, let's go to the next thing and let's look at architects and their processes. Look at this man, very controversial guy, very controversial guy. Okay, so we know Frank Gehry, and Frank Gehry is just one of those architects that really changed the way people saw design, right? Really changed the way people saw design, and his own philosophy is rooted in something called deconstructivism, and deconstructivism has a lot to do with geometry than the function. It's just about geometry, and the whole philosophy is that design geometry, right, or geometry or form of a particular building should feel more like a sculpture, right? Should feel more like a sculpture than something that is um, just straight and let's say formal. Hmm. You maybe see that in all his buildings because his designs are kind of rebellious, and you would also see his process. His designs are more rebellious, but the main crux of his design is trying to challenge conventional geometry, right? Conventional geometry. Now let's look at these two buildings that we have, right? They are actually museums. Guggenheim Guggenheim. That's it, Guggenheim Museum, right? I know I butchered the pronunciation, right? But one of the things I'm able to see is that constructivism is that something is straight to the point. Deconstructivism is that it's not straight to the point. Deconstructivism is that it's not straight to the point. Now let's look at this building, for example, this Guggenheim Museum, and let's even look at the process at which he actually did this building. Now, the process to this building is still on deconstructivism, right? But his own process actually starts with physical modeling rather than sketches. So he actually doesn't sketch first. There is a video on YouTube that also explains his process. It was an interview they did with him. But one thing people to see from this is that a lot about this man was weird. Yes, and he was very audacious, and I like it. Right. And so for this building especially, he actually just cut different pieces of cardboard, and we're just like joining them together, looking at how they can stick, and just trying to in 3D form actually create something, right, based on those um, models, right? So I already mentioned that he did a lot of this constructivism. Um, is also is the way he also approaches design has to do a lot of emotional expression, right? If you look at this one, right, by the left, it's almost like we have one that is normal and one that is not normal, right? And you can actually come and look at this and really bring out some meaning into this, right? Being able to see the contrast in two types, in two different um, geometry forms, bringing them together, right? It really just makes a kind of statement, right? Really just makes this kind of statement, right? So I already mentioned that he does a lot of hand sketches and but primarily actually physical models. The interview said that he actually does more physical models before he even starts sketching, and I think Frank Gehry was one of the first people to use Cassia. I think that's what it's called, Cassia software, right? But like it's one of those earlier software that were used for aeroplanes to design aeroplanes, and the reason why that was useful then was that you can be able to express your design in a very aerodynamic manner and also do analysis with it. So this man and his firm has been doing experiments and analysis for yeah before the 21st century. Yeah, and as people have been doing analysis before 21st century, even the right right they are Zaha Hadid architect was just one of those few people that use Maya for they still use Maya for um, modeling, right? And something I questioned, then I asked the person, right, why do you guys actually use Maya? There's actually Rhino that is more CAD oriented, right? So he just mentioned that Maya has a lot, does more sub D, does better sub D modeling, and sure said it's better with modeling. And I think that you can really tell, right? Something that I was able to see by something that I also saw that he did. All right, so the next actor we're looking at is no other but our normal mama, Zaha did. The fact that the two of them now actually passed, as well. Don't worry, we still have people around that we can be inspired from, but definitely these two people are just one of the most inspiring people. Um, okay, now let me even just give this analogy of Zaha, or like just kind of background on Zaha. She actually took the conventional route of actually going to a school of architecture and actually studying architecture, right? Than most of the other architects that were like recognized with her. That's it. Right. So, but one of the things that really made her stand out was number one, her expression of thinking. And um, when I was watching a video that was explaining how what she did for a master's thesis, right, and how a design have just evolved from there. Now, a master's thesis, I me just remembering this. I wish I put the image beside this one, right? So what they were asked to do, or what one of the professors told them to do, was that okay, I know you have a concept, right? But start your concept with a painting. So all of them were to come up with um, paintings, graphical art, and everything, right? And what she did was to actually paint um, what do they call this now? Different surface views of the building she wants to build, but like as if they were separated on a table. Okay, how do I ever explain? So we know the way you have a cuboid, right? So if you remove one part, remove one side, one face, paint it as one shape, another face, paint it as another shape, another face, paint it as another shape, another face, paint it as another shape. So that's what she was doing. I wish I actually fixed one of the paintings here. But that was really one of those things that we'll be able to see that actually influenced her design in the sense that she that time actually did a lot about she actually was a more of sharp angle person. If you look at one of our first commissioned building, which is that fire station, it's not curves. It's not curves. It's actually not curves, right? And even on this painting that you see down here, this was actually just one of the ways that she expresses herself, right? She has a lot of paintings that have been sold, right? Sold for museums and art exhibitions, right? But that's how she, as a person, is able to express her ideas, and that is actually one of the primary ways she starts her process, right? Sketches and paintings, sketches and paintings. There's also a video that explains this, right, on YouTube. There's a video that explains this on YouTube. So you really see that most of the times, if you want to really own your process, you would really need to either learn a particular aspect of the process or lean to the one you are most familiar with, right? And the decision is all yours. So yeah, I already mentioned that she does a lot of conceptual paintings, abstract paintings. Um, then she's also one of those designers, or she affirms just one of those that were one of the frontliners when it came to algorithmic designs and geometry or form finding, right? So let's look at this man, Tadao Ando. I know some of us may be able to know him, but his own design has to do a lot with minimalism and with light primarily, right? Light primarily. If you look at most of his designs, by the way, this particular design is his master's thesis. Right? So there's a lot you can do with your master's thesis. So what I'm trying to say is that most of the designs actually has to do with more solemn, quiet design, because his philosophy to design is that light and nature has a lot to do with your design. If you look at this particular building that he designed, you would really see that the way it blends with the way it works with nature is actually very splendid, right? It's really, really splendid. And again, philosophy first, it will now affect your process. And his own process starts a lot with site immersion. He usually spends a lot of time on the site, just stands there, spends some time, and we just observe things. Then he really just starts sketching, right? Yeah, and he actually uses lights, plays with lights as one of his primary source of design cues. All right. So that now goes to, so that as we start to round up and just have some questions, how do you now design better as someone that wants to be a better designer? And I can tell you that this actually works for different aspects of design. Number one, get knowledge. I already mentioned that knowledge is key. You can't pour water from an empty jar, right? And if it is honey that is in a jar, it won't pour water. It has to pour honey. If it's water that is in a jar, it won't pour honey. It has to pour water.
So you can't give what you don't have. Design is not magical, I tell you. It has to do with your knowledge and how you have applied your knowledge. So knowledge, read books, please read books. From Leonard, will be giving you guys some books soon, right? To just read, provide the PDFs and give you reviews, right, of the book if you are not really interested in reading it, so that you can get interested in reading the books. So that's one. Actually, read books. There are a lot of books you can find on design. Number two, ask questions. It's actually very easy, and you will learn better when you know something by just asking, right? And one thing that asking questions do is that it helps to structure your reading. There is something that you can read with 2 pages that someone can explain to you with one sentence, right? Asking questions from other people go a lot of way, right? Just being curious helps a lot. So watch videos, right? We are in the age where videos are part of the way we live, breathe, and move, in a sense. So yeah, watch videos, use YouTube, right? There's a lot that people put out, right? This particular class is being recorded. We're going to put it on YouTube. If you want to watch it again, definitely you can watch. But just watch videos. There's a lot of videos you can watch on YouTube, courses, even other videos you can just even watch. Study buildings and study architects. This one, I want to just dwell on this just more, a bit more. Now, if I want to know more about cycling, I should not go and study about people that ride a car. And I should not go and study about car. What I'm just trying to say is that if you want to be a better designer, study good design. Expose your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your tongue, your hands to actually good design, right? So actually study buildings, right? Study buildings. Um, Here in Lenaki, we actually have design reviews, and we believe that's just one of the most important things that we have done since we started anything we started, right? Study actual buildings. Number two is to study architects, right? By studying architects, you need to understand their philosophy and their process and the reason why they do certain things. Very important, very, very, very important. All right. So next thing I would say is actually do as they did. And this was something that was advised by someone I hold so dearly. He's just one of those people that I look up to when it comes to design and architecture, close to me. And when I was trying to really just really understand design things, because we worked on the project together, and I really just saw that, oh my god, there's a lot I don't know, a lot I don't know. I really remember asking like, bro, like how man, bro, like, bro, how man. So he just even explained to me that okay, one of the things that he did was actually replicating buildings. Now, what he told me was that okay, like even to even get better in software, right, and to be actually like proficient enough to do big projects, right, especially where he works now, is that you need to be able to replicate one of the most, at least most of the most complex projects, right? Being able to replicate most of this complex project. So he was also able to mention that oh, that's actually very, very important than almost any other thing. But like one thing that I looked at was that for some people, drawing is better than modeling. So I'm just like, okay, one of the best things you want to do for yourself is have a habit of studying buildings, studying architects, and actually replicating their buildings. You can just choose to draw or paint those buildings and by just replicating it. But what you're able to see is that because you're drawing them, you're able to interpret their buildings in another way rather than just looking at it. So you're able to interpret them as shapes, forms, lines, lines with weight, texture, giving them color, right? It goes a long way. Goes a long way. Really goes a long way. A very far way, but right.
Modeling would be better in the sense that it gives you a more immersive experience towards that building. And just something also that I usually do, and I've also seen some people do, is really just thinking about the building based on knowledge you have about it. All right. Documenting the idea, thinking about the building, and just writing ideas about it. What I mean is that okay, you have seen this building, right? Carry a note and just write your thoughts, right? Articulate everything that you have in your head. That okay, this building actually used this thing, right? Used the type of facade, and the reason why it did was to allow air to flow. Now, writing, the reason why writing is very important here because writing is one of the most proficient way of bringing good ideas in your head down to another medium. Because one of the things that I tell anybody is that don't let ideas live in your head. Have a sketch pad, have a journal. Don't let ideas live in your head because ideas can't stay in your head. You have to evolve, right, to something else. So don't let ideas stay in your head. Sketch things. Sketch things. Your sketches should not make sense. Most of the time, your sketches don't make sense, and that is why it's a sketch. It's conceptual. It's ideation. It really makes sense when you do more and more and more, and it continues to make sense. That's one mistake I made, which was that I actually thought that ideas were more of sparks. I thought ideas were more of like you just know something, and oh my god, like this is just very crazy idea. Oh my god, I've not seen this idea before. My guy, you have seen that idea before. It came from your head. Where did it come from? Your head processed something. You saw something from somewhere, right? You saw something from somewhere, right? So what I'm just trying to say is that one of the best ways to actually come up with good design is iteration. Do one thing, do it again, 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 do it again. Continue doing it until it makes more sense. Because as you do it, you solve problems more and more. You're able to see that problem in different dimensions more and more. Oh my God, you might really not know how much repetition does to design until you start repeating your designs. So what I'm just trying to say is very important to document your ideas. Always document your ideas. Write them down, sketch them out, put them on, model them on modeling software, draw them, paint them, express yourself. Next thing is design more. If you want to swim, you don't need to spend so much time reading a book about swimming. Please, what you just need to do, move your clothes, wear your swimming trunk, and dive into the water. Same thing with design. You want to design more, you want to design better, design more, continue designing. And one thing that I usually use as a consultant for myself is that my designs are crappy now. The more I design, it becomes less crappy. I feel in my design now. The more I design, I feel less. So it's almost like a kind of failing forward. But honestly, we don't really know how how potent just tasking yourself to design more is. Like, okay. Probably, I kind of have so much esteem of myself, but man, it's very sweet to fail, man. And it's actually very sweet to just do things and do them again and again and again because you know that it's going to get better. Dive in, dive in, challenge yourself, challenge yourself. Tell yourself that I'm going to do 30 sketches in one day. If 30 is a sketch, tell yourself you do 10 in a day. And as time progresses and it gets easier, increase the number. Tell yourself I'm going to read this particular type of this thing every month, right? Or tell yourself that I want to be able to focus on designing with light just for this year as a designer, right?
so I can be able to master light to an extent. So what do I do? What do I do? Give myself projects where I start playing with glass. Give myself projects where I start researching on types of glass, reflective elements, how the sun works, right? And my how the sun and my building works, right? So it really just gives you that infinite possibility, right? What I'm just trying to pitch to everyone here is that we can design better. We can design better only if we challenge ourselves more design, challenging design. Tell yourself that by force by fire, I should be able to design like this person. Let's say Zaha, for example, right? Look at her building, study her building, replicate her building, replicate her building, replicate it again, right? Replicate another one that she did. Then I sit down. Okay, I have a brief. My brief is to design a cinema, and I want it to look like something that Zaha did, correct? Oh, something that Zaha did. Hmm, shocker. Sorry, something that Zaha did, right? Then I would actually now make sure at least because since you're able to replicate her buildings, you'll be able to actually deconstruct some things that she was able to do already, right? What Zaha did, you get you used to be able to do some things that Zaha did, right? Then you will now be able to it actually give you a lot idea when you now need to challenge yourself to design like her, right? Actually give you more ideas to actually design like her in the sense that you would there's just a way you'll be able to know exactly what to do, right? One thing that so I've been learning Rhino recently and I really just realized that people think that being able to design fluid design is based on the software. And I can tell you for a fact it's not. Learning about NURBS curves, learning about continuous different type of curves, right? Has a lot to do with the knowledge you have about it. You can be able to implement it too, right? But even able to know how it works, you have to dip yourself in how it actually works in and of itself. And that was one of the most no-brainers that I realized recently. And I'm just like, oh my god, I have a lot to learn, right? It's funny, but yeah. There's actually still a lot to learn. Our time is a bit fast. We're meant to stop by 8:30, and yeah, so that we can be to. So let me just wrap up. I already spoke about writing about this, and I think this was kind of underestimated. Being able to just document your ideas, write them down, just have a journal, right? Just write down design. Doesn't need to- you don't need to do it so much, but I can tell you that every single time you do it, you become smarter because man, one of those things you need to prioritize as a person is to be able to remove things from your head and bring it to the real world. And not every time is that you need to actually start designing. You can just start writing about your ideas, document them down, right? Document them down, right? It's so powerful, so powerful. Oh my god, it's so powerful. All right, so we've actually gotten to the end. There's a lot that could have been there could have been a lot more to be said. Yeah, there would have been a lot more to be said, but I think we can just cap it here and get questions and other people's opinions. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Okay, Copenhagen, yeah, Copenhagen, yeah. Didn't even look at the chat. So thank you guys for the time. I want to be able to get some people's opinions. Probably something you learned, something you want to add. And let me. So if you have anything to add, just raise up your hand. Just can you raise up your hands? Let's see. Bolo has. Anybody else? All right. I know we'll continue to get stuff there. Uh, Corey, I want you to say something. You must say something. You must say something this class. Okay. Bolu, you can please just unmute yourself. And let's hear you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Yes.
Thank you for the, I don't know whether to call it lecture. Um, before I go ahead, what I want to share, like my addition is kind of like a tip. But before I go ahead,
Okay.
let me just see if it's something that is even relevant at all. Can people just give me like a reaction if you're like a student or something? I want to see how much of our crowd this night is
Student.
students.
Me, I'm a student. Oh,
Okay, Felix, Leslie. I mean, those are the reactions that I've gotten. But,
Okay.
I mean, the reason I asked is because towards the end, you were sharing a lot of tips about stuff to do, reading, studying architects' work, and things like that.
Yeah.
For a student, it might be easy. At some point, you might start to question, like, where do I find the time to do all of these things? How do I'm doing my studio projects. How do I still find time to read somebody's book? How do I still find time to practice something? How do I still? So I think a tip to share. I'm no longer in school now. Thank God for that. So, but
You guys, imagine as if like he graduated like 10 years ago, bro.
But I think a good tip, something that I did while I was in school that I think would help, is to find a way to integrate all of this into the projects that you are given in school.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you the truth. It will probably now make you a little bit slow because I found out that it affected me that way, that I was a bit slow with my work. But something that I try to do is whenever they give us a project, I would try to just try to think a little bit outside of what the project is asking for. Just try to think a little bit outside of the number of sheets that they are asking for and think about how much you can learn from doing this project, because nobody's going to sit you down in class and teach you these things. It is up for you to take that project as a learning experience. So for example, when they give you a studio project or they give you an assignment, it is up to you to make a personal decision to now say, okay, for this project, I want to, maybe study light a little bit and use that project as the push to study the things that you want to do, as opposed to, trying to give yourself another project outside of the 15 courses that you are doing to be drawing again. You're already staying in studio overnight to draw. Which time do you want to find to draw something else by the side? So just use those projects as a learning experience. Again, it will not be rosy, to be honest. You'll be slow. There were projects that I did. There were lots of my studio projects that I did in school that I got B's, and I hated the results because I knew I put in extra work and I deserved an A. But because I did not meet the requirements of the class itself, I got a B. But from an internal standpoint, knowing that this is what I learned from this project that maybe my other classmates who did not use the process that I used did not learn, it was rewarding in that regard. So those are some of the sacrifices that you have to make if you are really interested in getting better. So don't just think about it as, okay, this is something else that I have to find time to learn. You can choose, maybe for this semester's project, I'm going to model it in Rhino instead of modeling it in Revit. It will stress you, but by the end of the semester, you will be learn. So you just have to find a way to integrate all of these things into what you are already doing, right? So I think that's a tip that I wanted to share. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much, bro. Yeah, I also want to hear from other people. We have like 8 minutes, so yeah. Any other thing anyone wants to ask? Add. Leslie, do you want to say something? Felix, do you want to say something? Loshi Studios, do you want to say something? Alaba Moses, let's hear from you now. So just you can just say probably some things you learned, things you're gonna implement. So yeah, let's hear from you guys. Muhammad, Muslima, let's hear from you.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, good evening.
So my
Actual name is Ishola, so I currently reside in Kaduna for now.
Okay, your name is Ishola, or
Yes,
sorry?
yes. Yes, Ishola, yeah.
Oh, Ishola. Okay, okay, that's
Yes, yes.
lovely.
Mm. I currently reside in Kaduna.
Oh,
Yes, yes. So I always appreciate discourse like this. So what really brought me to Telegram this evening was totally different. So I come out, I saw this, and I felt like, oh, let me just partake. Let me
oh,
listen, learn as well. And according to what you guys said, you say think, question, and learn. So at least this is
yeah.
excellent. I really appreciate what has been said so far. So, and I'm just a bit confused if this is for students, if this whole discourse was meant to just impact you as a student, to help you through your designs as a student, or even outside school. So that's one thing I don't really know how to. I don't really know what the intent was.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, the major intent was actually for students majorly, but students will not always be students, right? Students will not always be students. That's why I did not make the event especially for students, right? So yeah. Okay. Thought Muhammad wanted to say something. So yeah, students will not always be students. You are actually only a architectural student for maximum, let's say 7, 6, 8, 10 years out of like 50 years that you probably might actually practice, right? So yeah, yeah, it's an important one, but I'm just trying to say that you will not always be a student. So yeah, I work for students also. Uh, really doesn't have to be for students. Right. Okay. Any question? Anything to add? Anything to add?
So personally, again, good evening
Okay.
from Eastern.
Yeah.
So I will still say a bigger thank you for really putting these kind of ideas out, and I would really love to attend more and to see what tangible topics we can touch that are really
Yeah.
affecting the industry today, and
Yeah.
we'll see how we can better position ourselves no matter what, at least. So that's about
All
it.
right.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Ishola. I think I really, really have a very soft spot from people from the north. Personally, Shabo. Yeah. Thank you so much. Um. Um. One thing we can promise you is that we're already making sure that we have the most competent people continue this course with us, right? To continue this course with us, and we're actually doing our best to bring again the most competent people. So we'll be having this for every Sunday. We'll be doing it every Sunday. It's actually the first one we're having this year, right? We did a couple last year, but this is going to be the first we're having this year. And please, same time every Sunday by 7 p.m. starts. We also made the recordings to be available, but this it can never be as effective as being in class live. So yes, yeah, I would just say a very big thank you for everyone that joined today, and we're going to see you next week. Yeah, but yeah, for those that actually new to Learnaki, this is actually Learnaki, and we are a community of mostly architecture students, but we also have practicing architects with us. Our main goal is to actually um, help you through the journey and just make it to be the difference in our industry, right? Make it to be the difference in our industry. We did a webinar on Friday. You can check that on YouTube. If you're not on the community group chat, you can actually please join. There's still a lot that you can get to learn. We have done different classes. You can see some of them on YouTube also. Some of them will also be uploaded soon to YouTube. Yeah, but this one would latest tomorrow we'll be able to send this to YouTube. Right. But thank you so much everyone for joining today. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you next week. Actually next week Saturday for design review. Yeah. So don't miss design review. Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna share the YouTube links to all those videos that I talked about. Try to look for every single one of them and share them to our community group that's on WhatsApp this night. So Thank you, everyone. I hope I'm not missing anything.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Have a good night, guys, and we'll see you next week.